This is my Minecraft empire, and a few days into the server, I have already become the wealthiest and most influential player on the server. Me and my friend Reaper spent the early days of the server mining and helping other players build their bases, all in an effort to expand our influence. One of the groups we were helping called themselves the United Nations, and I was helping them construct their ultimate secret base. This base was a massive hangar under the water, since they wanted to take advantage of the fact that this server had a mod that added vehicles like tanks and planes. This meant that the United Nations would be able to launch planes from their secret base under the water while being completely hidden. And even if someone found them, there was only one way into the base, and it was heavily fortified with obsidian barriers, artillery cannons, and secret tunnels. This was a very ambitious team that was definitely going to be a powerful force on the server, which is exactly why I was helping them. By helping them build their base, I was able to gain their trust, which would form a powerful alliance that could make me unstoppable. I decided to put this alliance to the test because of a rivalry I had with another nation run by AJ and FaZe Waffle. This group spent a majority of their time mining with a unique strategy that they had developed, which utilized one of the modded vehicles to quickly drive through massive underground mining tunnels and bring back an insane amount of ore due to the storage slots on the vehicle. So one day when they gave me a tour of their base and I realized how big their mining operation was, it began to worry me, since this meant that they had the resources to produce an insane amount of weapons, which could be a direct threat to my empire if they decided to use it against me. After learning about this technique, we decided to entirely copy it to make sure that we could keep up on resources. They didn't like that we basically stole their idea, but it didn't seem like they were going to do anything about it. I mean, after all, they did show me what they were doing. But unfortunately for them, I wasn't satisfied. I was still worried about the massive amount of resources they had already extracted, and if I wanted to stay on top, I had to destroy their operation before it could ever be used against me. This led to a secret meeting being held with the United Nations at their underwater hangar in order to plan a strike against AJ and FaZe Waffle's mining operation. Since I had helped the UN build their base and the fact that they were eager to get into a fight, they agreed to help me attack AJ and FaZe Waffle's base. The plan was pretty straightforward. I would attack their base from the air to provide a distraction which would allow the UN to tunnel underground until they reached the mining system. And once the UN gets in, they can destroy their mines and resources. But it wasn't going to be that simple. My distraction hadn't been successful. AJ had realized what we were doing and found Casey in the tunnels. And shortly after, I had to retreat from the battle since my plane had taken major damage and I risked being shot down if I stayed any longer. This left Jacob alone, hiding underground, where he continued to tunnel around, evading the enemy and trying to finish the mission. Until he was eventually found and a fight broke out in the mines, where Jacob was eventually killed. With their airfield bombed and their mineshaft damaged, it was unlikely they would be able to catch back up or have any meaningful impact on the rest of the server. I had successfully stopped them from becoming a threat. When I got back to my base, I had some time to think over what had happened during the battle, and I realized that the only thing stopping us from achieving a total victory in that battle was the UN's lack of supplies. Since they had spent most of their time building, they just weren't equipped with much more than basic weapons and really stood no chance at winning once they were found. That's when I came to the realization that I had an enormous stash of resources thanks to my stolen mining techniques. If I were to simply use my resources to fund the UN, I would have an unstoppable army at my command. No one would be able to stand up to such a large and well-funded army. And the best part is, the UN will feel nothing but gratitude, since I was the one who was helping them build their base, and I was the one who was going to make them rich. It was perfect. I was going to have their complete allegiance, and I was going to become unstoppable, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop me. Some time had gone by, and the perfect opportunity to test my new army had arrived when a new group of players known for being troublemakers had joined the server. This group, led by a player named Torpid, was rapidly developing and had already gotten a solid base established with a good amount of weapons stockpiled. This group of players was going to be the first test for my newly equipped army, especially since their rapid progress needed to be dealt with before they could become a legitimate power. I wanted to avoid being associated with this operation since people were already starting to become wary of my empire due to the recent raid. Because of this, I decided to send the UN to attack Torpid by themselves, without directly helping them. Since Torpid's group outnumbered the UN, it probably wouldn't be such a good idea to just walk in there and fight them, since there is no way the UN would be able to win an outnumbered fight. Because of this, the UN decided to utilize some of the aircraft I had given them in order to shift the balance of power in their favor. These aircraft were equipped with powerful machine guns that could quickly eliminate enemies, alongside the ability to drop powerful bombs as strong as TNT. With these planes, they could easily beat the odds and win the outnumbered fight. As the UN approached, Torpid and his troublemakers took cover in their tower to hide from the deadly power of the planes. As soon as the UN planes were visible, Torpid and all of his troublemakers began firing all their weapons towards the UN planes. The planes started bombing the base, despite all of the fire coming from the army. While this didn't do much damage, it did lead to one of the UN pilots, Casey, to panic and accidentally crash his plane into the ground. With one of the planes already down and the other one under heavy fire, I realized that it might have been a bad idea to sit this one out. With Casey now on the ground, he was able to draw out some of Torpid's soldiers into the open, where Jacob could quickly eliminate them from the air. It seemed like the battle was turning around, and the UN were actually going to win, until Torpid pulled out an air-to-surface missile and fired it at the remaining UN plane, destroying Jacob's wing and sending him spiraling towards the ground. With the two UN pilots separated and Torpid's fallen troublemakers re-equipped, they started hunting down the UN pilots. They wouldn't last long since they were now outnumbered and weren't equipped to fight on the ground. The UN was quickly being hunted down and could do little to stop Torpid's forces. Casey was trying his best to hold off Torpid's forces, but he was completely alone, since Jacob's plane had gone down pretty far away and there was no chance of the UN grouping up with Torpid's army between them. Casey did his best to hold them off and he even took one of them out, but there was little he could do against the entire army. Jacob, being the only one left, was quickly hunted down by Torpid's entire army, but before they had a chance to regroup was when I arrived. With my first strike, I had destroyed all of Torpid's resources and his team's respawn point, since it was completely unguarded and out in the open. Now that Torpid's team wouldn't be able to respawn, I had my chance to finish the fight myself. With Torpid's team split up, it wouldn't be long until I started getting kills. Pretty soon, it was just Torpid left. As I swung around to make one final strike to finish him off, he made a desperate attempt to shoot me down with his last missile, but he missed, and I took my shot. And with that, Torpid and his team were back at the world spawn with absolutely nothing. After the battle, I was so worried about what the other nations would think about me attacking another group so soon, that I hadn't realized what the UN's loss in the battle had meant for them. The UN was so willing to go on these missions for me because of how ambitious they were, and all the help I had given them. But the only thing they had gotten in return from these battles was a partial success and a defeat that I could have prevented if I had been there sooner. Their ambition wasn't satisfied, but I was only thinking about myself, and how I had gotten everyone's attention, and how I needed to be more careful of what I did next. But before I had a chance to plan out my next moves, the UN had decided to take a path of their own, and without informing me, they had decided to use the supplies I had given them to sail over to a peaceful nation with the goal to obliterate them. The UN had set out on their own, heading towards their target with a completely overkill amount of equipment. They were tired of losing and had every intention of winning this fight. This nation was a small group of players led by Mr. Purple that lived in a cave underneath Antarctica. While they didn't have much, they had established quite a humble little home in these caves where they were just happily mining with not the slightest idea of what was going to happen to them. When the UN arrived on the shore, they didn't know exactly where the entrance to the caves was, which gave Purple just enough time to realize what was happening and hide in a random tunnel. It didn't take long for the UN to figure out where they were. When the UN entered the cave, they placed down a tank and used it to destroy their base, since they hadn't found Purple yet. While destroying the base, they made sure to destroy Purple's respawn point to erase all the progress that him and his team had made. It wasn't long before they had figured out that they were hiding in one of the tunnels, and they were swiftly obliterated. These players were completely peaceful. They hadn't done anything to warrant this attack. There wasn't any strategic benefit, no massive reward, no overarching plan. The UN had simply become consumed by their own ambition, and with their victory, their confidence would only increase, which meant that no one was safe. Anyone could be next. Even me. It'd been a while since I had spoken with the UN, until one day Jacob suddenly had started traveling over to my base for what was supposed to be a simple visit. However, as he got closer, he went completely silent and was no longer communicating with me. I couldn't know for sure what Jacob was doing, especially after their recent raid, so I made sure to grab some supplies just in case anything happened. Jacob was now within visual range and still hadn't said anything. All I could do was sit there and watch as he flew closer, wondering why he'd gone silent. It wasn't long before I got my response. While the battle was over extremely quickly, it was clear that Jacob hadn't come here to fully destroy me. He hadn't brought anything with him besides the plane he flew over with. This attack was about sending a message that the UN was done being a puppet in my game, and they were going to stand on their own. They were going to make sure that I could never control anyone ever again. I didn't wait long to give them my response. They just started a fight with the richest player on the server, and even with me being outnumbered, they had no idea what they had just done. I flew over to their base and declared war. Once the tank had run out of ammo, I had no choice but to get out and try and fight them on their own turf. It didn't take long for one of them to sneak up on me with their secret tunnels and get rid of me. In response to me attacking their base, they immediately tried to strike my base with their planes again, but this time I was ready for them and was able to quickly shoot them out of the sky before they got anywhere near the carrier. This went back and forth for a while, where they would try and attack me and I would try and attack them in return. But neither of us had much success attacking each other since I had such good air defenses and they were extremely fortified. So I decided, in order to weaken their defenses, or maybe even fully destroy them if I'm lucky, I was going to take a one-way trip into their base with a plane and a stack of grenades. The resulting explosion was so powerful that it actually managed to destroy bedrock, but it just barely missed the back of their base and all of their supplies were still intact. By this point, the fighting had been going on for hours, and both teams had spent a lot of resources attacking each other and had damage to repair. Because of this, we agreed to a truce since both teams needed time to regroup and repair. Even though we both agreed to a truce, I really thought that they were going to give up, especially after all the damage from my last attack. But they were frustratingly insistent on continuing the war. They knew that I had used up some of my most valuable equipment attacking them today, and they thought I wouldn't be able to keep this up forever. And they were right. I didn't have any more missiles to shoot down their planes or extra vehicles to strike their base. The people who had helped me make my empire so strong were closer than ever to completely destroying it. I knew if I wanted to save my empire, I wouldn't be able to do it alone. There wasn't much time left, and I needed to get more people on my side to help me fight the UN, but there was no one left to turn to. I had made enemies of everyone else on the server. Everybody but Purple's team. While they didn't have anything left that could help us in the fight, I would be able to supply them with the resources that they needed. Knowing that the final battle was likely to take place at the carrier, I realized that I would need to relocate our supplies to somewhere a lot safer, since we couldn't risk losing everything early in the fight. This caused us to spend all of our time moving as many weapons and valuables to the newly constructed bunker at the end of the mining tunnel. This bunker would serve as a respawn point in case any of us died in the battle and needed to regear. And just in case the UN somehow managed to push us out of the carrier and into the tunnels, we had multiple fortified positions that could be held, making it impossible for them to push us all the way to the bunker. While we were preparing all of our defenses, the UN was having a bit of a resource problem after the recent battle, since they weren't getting free handouts from me anymore. This meant that the UN would have to reach out to the only other faction that had resources to fight this kind of war. This led to the UN to form an unlikely alliance with FaZe Waffle, since the UN were able to convince him that I was the one behind the attack on his base earlier on. This meant that the UN now had access to all the resources that FaZe Waffle had gathered, in addition to having him as a teammate for the upcoming battle. As the UN packed up their stuff, they looked back at their destroyed base before setting off to group up with FaZe Waffle and begin the attack. This was it. Both sides were all in on this battle that would decide everything. If we won, they would be completely out of supplies and have no choice but to surrender. But if we lost, we would lose everything.
They're coming in a formation.
I don't know what they're doing.
What are they in? Because they're moving faster than people.
They're on ground. I'm pretty sure they're on ground. Someone get to the back of boat and try and spot them.
I got it.
They're almost in visual range.
I see. Oh!
Dead?
I got one-shotted.
Okay, hurry. Come back.
I couldn't even see them. I'm coming. Oh my god!
They're in the forest of snipers.
They shot at me, but I didn't.
I need sniper help in the back.
The battle had just started and we had already had our first death. This was bad since every time we died, we lost more of our valuable equipment.
I hit one of them. They're shooting at me in here.
Yeah, get the cover.
I'm
They got a tank in the water. Tank in the water. Fire rockets at that tank. Destroy the
Go
tank.
back up. Think that we're in water either. Wait, are you rushing?
I've hit the
I'm
tank a
not
few
up
times.
here.
After forcing their tank to retreat, the sniping battle continued until
Reaper down.
they killed Reaper and then got me not long after. The battle was not going well. We had lost our first sets of equipment, and there were no longer enough of us on the carrier to stop them from advancing. My worst nightmare was becoming a reality.
They're boarding the carrier. Oh, this is gonna be bad. Are they coming down the stairwell yet?
I'm at the stairwell. I don't think they're going down.
Alright, I'm going up.
Wait, were they at field?
I'm dead.
I'm getting pushed. Guys, all we need is to get one. That's all.
Purple, push
Trace.
Let's all go at once. Oh, water.
Come on.
I'm not going up. I'm sorry. I'm scared.
You have to purple with us.
We have to push.
Above you.
Wait.
I'm gonna start putting down claymores, so start watching your step just in case they start using the gun.
Hey, Edward! Kill yourself! They're starting to go down the stairs.
Try and jump them. They're all coming down at once.
I'm attacking.
Just do as much. Try and kill one. Did you get one?
Nope.
They're coming.
Rocket that one.
Okay,
starts to wither.
everyone group up with me. I'm at the forward defense station.
No, I got you. I'm covering you. I got one! Push.
After killing one of them, we realized that they had set up beds outside of the carrier so that they could respawn and rejoin the fight, which meant that they were going to keep coming even if we killed them, and we were burning through supplies very fast.
They destroyed it. Here for now. Oh, they got a missile! That defense station might have been destroyed. We're gonna have to fall back to the next position. Right here. I want you to on that purple.
They have full diamond stacks.
We did it at the start of the battle.
We were doing our best to slow them down, and we were even starting to get kills on them occasionally, but they just kept marching onward. We weren't having much success, and our first defensive position had been overrun, and the UN was now a lot closer to the bunker.
Are they already in this tunnel?
Yeah, they're in the tunnel. Bryce, you and I are gonna try and get one, okay? When they come here, we
I know.
insta-kill.
I have a grenade launcher.
Hearing the fighting just outside the bunkers when the reality of the situation finally started to set in. All of my wrongdoings were finally catching up to me, and I realized that I was wrong. I thought that if I could just control the resources and eliminate threats, then people would have to respect my authority. But all I did was create tragedies to be used against me, and label myself as the villain. We did our best to hold them off outside the bunker. We fought to our last bullets, and when they ran out, we tried running at them with swords, but we were eventually overrun and had no choice but to accept defeat and run. Some of us were able to get out using a hidden helicopter, but even as I escaped, I knew we had lost. In my attempt to rule this world, I had become its villain. I had started this server believing that power came from having the most resources and allies. I thought that no one could challenge me. Every decision I made was about staying on top. Every move was just another piece of the puzzle. But somewhere along the way, I made a mistake of abandoning my allies. The UN was never supposed to turn against me. FaZe Waffle was never supposed to become my enemy. Purple's base was never supposed to be destroyed. But every move I had made pushed the server closer to this moment. The server had turned against me not because they were my enemies, but because I had made them that way. In the end, all the resources in the world would not have saved my empire, since empires built on controlling people don't last forever. They just give everyone a reason to tear them down. This video took a long time to make, so I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed, or maybe even checked out one of my other videos where things didn't end quite so bad for me. But anyways, thanks for watching.